Zehr show. Today's date is Friday, April 14th, 2023, and we're streaming to you from the Rising Eagle Studios here at the Warrior Healing Center in Sierra Vista, Arizona, in the great county of Cochise and in the great state of Arizona. Hope everybody had a blessed Easter this last Sunday. I know I did. I got to spend some time with my family, and it's just Easter is always a blessing and a great day to celebrate, so I hope everybody had a great Easter. So today, my special guest veteran is William Bates. I know him as Bill. Bill, okay?
That's good.
All right. Thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure,
I've known Bill for quite a long time from St. Andrews because you were doing the lecture for quite a long time there, but I never got to personally know you until I joined the Knights of Columbus. So one of the best things I ever did was join that fraternal organization, and I'm just so blessed to be a part of that organization. And we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later in the interview when we get into our community activities. So where I like to start the interview is to start off with, where is home? Where were you born and raised, and where'd your story begin?
Okay, I was born on an army base. Normally you wouldn't say an army base, you'd say an army post, but I was born on an army base that no longer exists, which is Scott Field. I was born during World War II, and my dad was in the Army Air Corps, and I was born at Scott Field. It's later become, now is the Scott Air Force Base right outside St. Louis. My dad served till the end of World War II, and then he was a dentist at the time. Okay. And he served until the end of World War II, and then moved our family to George, Iowa, and where he was a dentist working with Dr. Smith, and then he wanted to get his own practice, and we moved to Remsen, Iowa, and we moved to Remsen, Iowa in 1949. I began second grade there and grew up in Remsen. So I am a product of Remsen, Iowa, neat and hard to beat.
Farm country, right?
That was a good place to grow up, and my folks had cottages on Lake Okoboji, a pretty good sized lake in northwest Iowa, and we used to spend the summers at Lake Okoboji and then 9 months of the year back in Remsen, and my dad would come up over the weekends.
Wow. So did you live in that area even up through high school then?
So I lived in Remsen through high school, and then when it came time to go to college, the only college I considered was my dad's alma mater, Creighton University in Omaha, and I went to Creighton for 4 years. I took ROTC my first 2 years. Then I did not take ROTC my junior year. Vietnam was beginning to heat up in 1963. Okay. And so I took compressed ROTC junior and senior years in my fourth year of college, and got my commission. And then I applied for an academic delay to go to graduate school, and I went to the University of Maryland to graduate school, earned a master's degree in English. It was kind of interesting. I did not have any money, and so I applied to, I think, 27 different colleges for information about the graduate school and for applications. One of the colleges was Bates College in Maine, and Bates came back and told me, we don't have a graduate school. So that threw that one out. So then I made a matrix, and all of the schools that did not require a physical exam, which most schools did require then, and did not require an application fee. In other words, I could apply for free. That brought me down to 5 of those 27 schools, and it was a very diverse group of Creighton University, Catholic University, University of Maryland, University of Georgia, and Rice. And I applied for a graduate assistantship, so I needed them to pay my way through graduate school. And the first school that said yes was University of Maryland, and so I sent a telegram to them saying yes, and then I sent a telegram to the other 4 schools and said, sorry, you've waited too long, and I'm going to this other better school. And so that's how I ended up at the University of Maryland for graduate school. The Army gave me a 2-year academic delay to do that, and then I entered the Army after that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how that, if you were drafted or what had inspired you then to join the Army, if that Vietnam was kicking off around that
I
time.
had a 2-year service obligation after the ROTC, after graduating and being commissioned in through ROTC. I had a 2-year service obligation. It was delayed for 2 years. And then after 2 years of graduate school, I went on active duty.
And then did you have to, because I don't know, I have never been an officer, so did you, since you went through ROTC, did you still have to go through OCS and all that? Or did you get a waiver for any of that because you'd already had the schooling?
No. Because I was a second lieutenant, I went to officer basic course. My branch was Signal Corps. I went to Fort Gordon.
Fort Gordon, Georgia? Okay.
Fort Gordon, Georgia, and I received orders while I was at graduate school, and they said I was assigned to APO 96301. I had no idea what APO 96301 was. So
Exactly.
I went to the Reserve Center in College Park, Maryland, and I said, "Hi, I'm Lieutenant Bates. I'm going on active duty here in a few months. I've gotten called active duty orders, and I'm after 9 weeks at Fort Gordon, I'm assigned to APO 96301. Where is that?" Well, they had no idea, but they said, "We think it's Vietnam." So I said, "Oh, okay." So I went, when I did go on active duty, I actually reported on my birthday to Fort Gordon. And so I said, "Here's my orders. I'm on orders to Vietnam, apparently." And the guy said, "No, you're not on orders to Vietnam. 96301 is Korea, and you're on orders for Korea." But while during the 9 weeks, I thought, well, I'm only going to be in the Army two years, so why don't I just change my orders to Vietnam? So I volunteered for Vietnam, and that's how I ended up in Vietnam with 9 weeks in the Army.
If you were thinking you were only going to be in for 2 years, well, why did you take all of that ROTC just to kind of get a feel of it and see how?
To be an officer, and I thought people had told me if you're not an officer, you're going to get drafted, you'll be in the infantry, you'll get killed in Vietnam, and so forth. And so I thought, well, let me be an officer.
So it was a strategy.
It was a strategy to go in as an officer. Then I finished the assignment in Vietnam, and then I was assigned back to Washington, D.C., near the University of Maryland, back to Washington, D.C., and there I was at headquarters, GA, and the people there were pretty interested in keeping me in the Army. So my boss, the full colonel, declared every Friday was Bill Bates Go RA Day, and so everybody in the office had to come to me on Friday and tell me one reason that I should stay in the Army. And it turned out we had a baby. I got married 10 days after I came back from Vietnam.
All right.
And a year later, Joan and I had our first child, and so I extended to make captain. You had to serve a year in grade as captain. So I would have been a first lieutenant for an extra 6 months. I thought, well, I'll just extend for 6 months so I can be a captain, say I was a captain. So I did that, and then I extended again for 24 months. That was the maximum you could do, and then I did finally go RA. But after we'd been married 2 years, we had twins. So I'd been married.
Wow.
I'd been married for 2 years and had 3 kids.
Wow.
And the commissary was very attractive to us at that point.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so that's how I ended up staying in.
Where were you at the time when your first child was born?
So the kids were all born at Andrews Air Force Base while we were living on the Maryland side in basically Washington, D.C. suburb. And I worked in the district. At Tempo ABC was right beside Fort McNair in Washington, D.C.
Well, go ahead and give your shout out to your kids real quick. And
hello, Cindy, Brian, and Angie.
And then any of your
Joan.
grandkids that might be watching.
And Claire and Vince, and Claire at University of Notre Dame. Vince at University of Connecticut,
Wow.
Amelia at Northern Arizona University, and Kevin, who is going to a very good school in a year or so, but finishing up at University High in Tucson.
Now, you had shared earlier that your dad was a World War II veteran,
Yes,
and
and a
you have
dentist.
served. Have any of your children or grandchildren served?
Well, my grandkids are too young yet, but yes, both my older daughter Cindy and my son Brian served and got out of the military as captains.
Oh, okay. That was interesting. How long were they in for?
Brian was in for 8 years. Cindy was in the reserves for 6 years. They both took ROTC at Notre Dame.
Well, thank you both for your service. That's great to hear. Because you hear a lot about when you're interviewing veterans that service seems to run in the family.
Yes.
It's a generational thing. And I've interviewed some veterans that can trace their lineage back to like the Civil War.
Yes, I can trace mine back to the American Revolution. My great, four greats, grandfather Osius Marvin served with George Washington and hosted him
Wow.
at his inn after the Revolution was over, and that got me into the Sons of the American Revolution, SAR.
Very cool. I did not know that. I'm glad we broached that. That's pretty interesting to know. So where was your first duty assignment? You said that you have 3 children now, and they were all born where again?
All born at Andrews Air Force
Andrews
Base.
Air Force Base.
So I was stationed there in D.C. and had now made captain, and I was assigned to the career course, Signal Corps career course, advanced course at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, and stayed on for another year to take the Bell Telephone system engineering course at Fort Monmouth, and then was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas. At Fort Hood, Texas, I had 2 assignments. The first assignment was the signal officer for the 1st of the 14th Field Artillery Battalion, and there I did a good enough job that I was selected for a company command across post, and I commanded HHC, the 3-Corps 57th Signal Battalion for a year and a half. When my command was over, I disliked Fort Hood so much that I volunteered to go back to Vietnam. But so this would have been in 73 or so, and Vietnam was really shutting down, and so they said we can't send you to Vietnam anymore. We're not going to do that, but we will send you to an unaccompanied tour, and so then I did my first of 3 tours in Korea, and I just keep going.
So, as a young officer, what was it like being entrusted with your first command as company commander? Was that a little bit intimidating? I feel that knowing the character that you are, I feel you were up for the challenge.
Yeah. An HHC, a headquarters and headquarters company, is different from a line company in that you've got the battalion commander is in your company, and the lieutenant colonel is in your company, and a couple of majors are in your company, and several captains, and they don't always want to do what you want to do. So the headquarters and headquarters company was a different kind of an assignment. It required tact, and I was not in heaven the day they handed out tact, and so that I guess that made it a little more difficult than it otherwise would have been.
So then you go. So you're at Fort Richardson, or not Fort Richardson. I can't remember Andrews Air Force Base for some reason.
But now I'm at Fort Hood.
So you're at Fort Hood.
Yeah.
And so where do you go after that?
So I volunteered for Vietnam. They changed it to Korea, and so then I went to Korea, and in Korea, this was an unaccompanied assignment. So Joan and the kids went back to Remsen, Iowa, and I went to Korea And there, very fortuitously, the six of us officers from around Seoul were housed in the same house, and one of the officers there was a major named Tom Durfee, and Tom Durfee had just been an instructor at West Point, and he was teaching Portuguese at West Point, but he was very friendly with Colonel Jack Capps, was the deputy chair of the English department, and I had a master's degree in English, and Tom said, I can probably get you an assignment as an instructor at West Point. And so I said, well, that'd be good. So I got selected for Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, and so did Tom.
Okay.
We went there, and then Tom did help me get assigned to, I volunteered for and was selected for an assignment teaching at West Point. So I taught in the English department at West Point.
Holy cow.
The first year I taught English. The last 2 years I taught philosophy because I got tired of grading themes every night. And so that was very good. I call that the best family assignment I've ever had in my life. I loved teaching at West Point. Our kids, we had cadets over to the house on a regular basis. The kids liked the cadets. The cadets liked the family environment with our kids because they were away from their own families.
Right.
So that was all very good. I became the public address announcer for the women's NCAA basketball team. I helped publish a newsletter for the track and cross country teams, and I was the assistant officer in charge of the cadet marathon team, and I was just really totally immersed in the environment at West Point. We all learned to ski. They have a ski slope there. We all learned to ski, and we'd just pack up the skis in the afternoon and go ski, maybe make 6 runs, and then come back and have supper. And it just was a wonderful assignment. I coached baseball, basketball, and soccer 3 years each of those 3 sports, and our kids were in those sports. And the third year in the winter, I said, I'm going to coach hockey, and I told the kids.
Hockey, huh?
I told the kids,
great sport.
You have 2 choices. You're all going to take a skating thing besides basketball. They were all on the basketball too, also. But I said you have the choice to either be play hockey or to take figure skating, and so. My younger daughter said she would take figure skating. My son said he would take hockey, and my older daughter said she would take hockey.
Good for her.
And so she became my goalie.
Have you watched the women's hockey games, man? They're pretty good.
They are pretty good. I agree.
I like to watch the Team USA women when they're playing for the Olympics. Very competitive and fast paced, and yeah, very good.
I actually went to a women's hockey tournament game. Seems to me might have been the national championship or semifinals was in Minneapolis, and was Minnesota against Wisconsin. And in fact, it was the national championship now that I remember, because Wisconsin won, and Barry Alvarez, the athletic director at Wisconsin, didn't come to the national championship game. I thought that was pretty tacky on his part. Wisconsin won, and somebody else represented. The athletic director should have gone to get the national championship trophy, but Barry wasn't there.
Wow. So you're doing all of these activities with how old are you? Your kids, or you're doing all this with your children, the coaching and all that?
Well, when we were at West Point, I would say they were like second, third, fourth, fifth grade.
So they were little, yeah.
And Cindy, my older daughter, was advanced a grade in the middle of the year, so she in effect skipped a grade, although she did half a year in each of 2 grades. So she skipped a year there. So then she became 2 grades ahead of her twin siblings. She was also. I'd also like to compliment my wife Joan at this point.
Oh yes, please, by all means.
Joan and I have been married for 55 years, going on 56.
Congratulations.
And I was gone in some very critical times in the family, and Joan is the reason that our kids turned out so well. But the first time I went on an unaccompanied tour after I was married, I went to Korea, and Cindy, our older daughter, was in kindergarten. So this was a pretty important year for me to miss. And I think the kids, Joan tells me, the kids missed me, and that this was a real period of adjustment for those kids. Cindy was quite advanced, and she was reading books before kindergarten. And so when she went to kindergarten, she was a real challenge for the kindergarten teacher. And the teacher wasn't sure what to do with her. And so sometimes the teacher would ask Cindy to read books to the classmates.
Oh, very cool.
And then the teacher met with Joan and said she'd like to advance her a year, have her skip kindergarten. And Joan said, no, I think that would be too disruptive for her. So she didn't advance her then, but she did advance her at a later date. My third unaccompanied tour, so Vietnam was before I was married. The third unaccompanied tour, and the second one after I was married, I left my family in Burke, Virginia, and went to Korea to be a battalion commander, which is very time demanding on me. And meanwhile, Cindy was a high school senior considering what university to attend, and so I missed that whole process for her. The key thing that happened there was U.S. Air had a discount on plane tickets, and Joan flew from D.C. to Indianapolis, rented a car, and took Cindy, there's two of them, took Cindy to Purdue University, and it was rainy and overcast, and Cindy said, and Joan said, do you want to get out and look around Purdue? And Cindy said, no, this won't work for me. But the plan was that they would go to Notre Dame, and so then they drove on to South Bend and looked at Notre Dame, and Cindy said, this is it. Uh-huh. And so she ended up picking Notre Dame in a process I'd never figured in because I was gone, and but she was so happy there that's where her other two children also ended up. So our kids all graduated from Notre Dame, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, but being Catholic too, that's a blessing.
But I didn't have anything to do with the first choice.
God did.
God interceded there.
Yes.
And reigned in West Lafayette.
It's so interesting because in our time, and I know that you served way before I did, we didn't have the technology we have today.
Right.
You know, you couldn't FaceTime with your family. You couldn't.
That's correct.
Pick up your cell phone and call home. I mean, letters were your only way of communication, and you were lucky if you got a letter, especially overseas. How often would you get a letter from home usually?
Yeah, every few days.
Every few days.
And to go back to Vietnam, it was kind of interesting. Joan and I were exchanging letters and got engaged
oh, how cool.
by mail.
By mail.
By mail, and then got married 10 days after I came home. We couldn't decide. Most everybody got a very small drop from the 365 days in Vietnam, but you never knew how many days you would get a drop. They didn't want to keep you beyond the date that you were eligible to come back. So they might have a plane 5 days a week or something. So you'd get a little drop. So we first planned to get married 7 days earlier than we did, and I thought, well, better not cut it that close. But so we ended up getting married 10 days after I came home from Vietnam. So I have no trouble remembering how long it's been
Did you
since I
guys
came
get married
back
in
from
the
Vietnam.
church at that time?
We did.
Because that would have been kind of hard to arrange with you being in Vietnam, right?
Joan came home. Joan was working in Manhattan in New York City at the time, and she had graduated from Briarcliff College in Sioux City.
Wow.
And she came home about a month before the wedding and made the arrangements at home then. So we went back to Remsen to get married in our home church.
If I was
even though we
thinking,
both left.
if I was thinking, I would have had Joan come in and interview with you, because she has some fascinating stories to share as well. And I love hearing how, because the spouse always serves with the service member, always.
Yep.
You know, and they put in just as much hard work and stuff. The veteran might be overseas somewhere and their life may be on the line, but let's not discount the value that the spouse has in raising the family, and the fact that the military community and how they come together and everything. It's a beautiful, especially now. I don't know how it was back in the 70s. Did she have any of that type of support when you were deployed?
Oh, certainly when she went back to Remsen, both her family and my family were still there in town. So she did have that support. When the in 1985, when I went to Korea and all the kids were in high school, I would say no. I'd say she was on her own with the three kids.
Okay.
3 high school kids.
Oh. So how many years did you serve total in the Army then?
So I was in the Army for almost 28 years.
28 years. And looking back on your career, do you have one point that stands out, like it's your favorite tour?
3.
3 of them. Oh,
Yeah.
please share.
So the best family assignment that I had in the Army was at West Point. That was just, it was great for me. It was great for the family. We enjoyed things with the cadets. We went to we got season tickets for everything. We'd go to hockey games, and the hockey rink. They've got a new rink there that I have not seen. But the hockey rink at the time was unheated, so it got pretty cold out in New York, and they had canvas. Sort of windows, canvas covers of the open window frames, and the cold would come in. So between periods, everybody would run into what was called the warming room. It was the only heated place in the building, and it was the concession where the concession stands were. But the hockey games were just really fun for us, and I was promoted to major while I was there.
Okay.
And the major wears a different hat. The major has a gold braid on the bill, and it's a different hat from that of a captain or a company grade officer. So I took my used company grade hat to a hockey game, and when a West Point cadet scored a hat trick,
right,
and the cadets were all throwing their hats onto the
right.
ice, I threw this officer's hat onto the ice and then looked innocent, and so then 2 or 3 cadets went out onto the ice, picked up all these hats, and they had the name in it, cadet so and so, and they're handing these hats out, and they've got this company grade hat, so they're looking for somebody in a green uniform that this hat might go with. And I was in civilian clothes, and I was only kind of looking out of the corner of my eye, so they put it on the banister and left it there. When the game was over, I went and picked it up and put it back in the sack, and then at a later game came and threw the hat back out for a second time, and Joan refused to let me take it home any more times.
Again?
Yeah, so that was fun. But Mike Krzyzewski was the basketball coach. The basketball team was very good. I used to travel to basketball games. There were a handful of us rabid basketball fans who went to away basketball games at Iona and St. Peter's and some of the other Fairfield, some of the other nearby schools that West Point played. But just everything, that was my favorite family assignment. The most important assignment that I ever had was as the battalion commander of the 304th Signal Battalion in Korea. I had wonderful people. I had, I think it was at the time the third largest battalion in the United States Army. We had 1,140 people, men and women, in the 304th Signal Battalion, and millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment would go to the field. As basically we're the tactical signal battalion for the whole northern half of South Korea. So that was a very important assignment because I did all right on that. Some very nice things happened to me in the Army after that. And then the third assignment that really comes to my mind was my last assignment, was as the Desk Ops of the Information Systems Command at Fort Huachuca. The Information Systems Command at the time was a major command, what's called a MACOM,
right?
Like ForceCom or TRADOC. We had just downgraded from a 3-star commander to a 2-star commander. The 3-star commander was not replaced, and the 2-star commander became in charge, Sam Leffler. So that was a very fine way to end my career. So those 3 assignments really come to mind.
Is that where you retired from Fort Huachuca?
That was my last assignment. Yes, I retired there.
And where did you come to Fort Huachuca from? Because we kind of skipped that part. How did you end up coming here?
Okay. So the first time, where would I have been? 81. So the first time I was in Korea. We had a family assignment in Korea. So all of us were assigned to Korea from 1979 to 81.
Okay.
And leaving there, I signed up for a course at Fort Ord, and the utilization of that course would either be at Fort Gordon or Fort Huachuca. And so I picked Fort Huachuca. The course was Organizational Effectiveness course at Fort Ord.
Okay.
And so when I came, but while I was there, I got selected for Lieutenant Colonel. When I came to Fort Huachuca, I said, "Hi, I'm your new Organizational Effectiveness Officer." And the commanding general, 2-star General Gerd Grumbacher, said, "No, you're not."
I remember that name.
Grumbacher said, "You're not going to that. You count against me as a lieutenant colonel, and that's a major's job, and so you're going to a different assignment." So I never did have a utilization of the organizational effectiveness course that I liked so much. So that was it, and that assignment worked out fine. I was in the Desk Ops for about 3 years, and from there I went to the Pentagon, got selected for battalion command, went to Korea. After Korea, I went to the Defense Communications Agency in Arlington, Virginia, had 2 very fine assignments there, and then I was selected for Senior Service College. I went to Industrial College of the Armed Forces in Washington, D.C. Coming out of there, I went to Hawaii for 3 years, and now I knew I was getting close to retirement, and I liked Fort Huachuca very much. So I asked to go back to Fort Huachuca for a second time. So after being there for 3 years, 81 to 84, I was assigned back to Fort Huachuca in 1992 and have lived here for the last 31 years.
Yeah, I remember when Fort Huachuca kept coming up on the BRAC list.
Yes.
And every time it was targeted for closing, somehow miraculously we always were able to survive it. And then the MACOM became intelligence center. They moved Fort Devens, wasn't it? I think. Yeah, Fort Devens over here. And oh, look at that. We got Mr. Mayor joining us this morning. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Love the West Point story, and wow, he served under General Grumbacher, who founded the United Way of Sierra Vista, Arizona. Do you know Mayor McCaw?
I just met him at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Day at the city park.
How was that?
That's a
What was your
wonderful.
experience there
That's
that day?
that's a wonderful event. The Vietnam Veterans of America. Oops, wrong pocket.
There you go.
Vietnam Veterans of America do a terrific job, and Bill Beecher especially do a terrific job of putting together a great ceremony there at the city park. I think maybe about the last 5 years or so we've done. It's probably maybe even more than that, 5 or 6 years.
And what is your other patch on your other sleeve over here? On your sleeve over here.
I don't know.
Oh, the flag. I thought you had. Oh, here. Then you got the POW MIA, and then what did you have on your hat? You had a badge on your hat.
First Signal Brigade.
First Signal Brigade.
I was in the First Signal Brigade 4 times. Once in Vietnam and 3 times in Korea.
Wow.
It was very interesting. In about 1993, the Fort Huachuca had been a Signal Corps post until about 1993, and the MI school was headed up by a 2-star general, and the Information Systems Command was a major command headed up by a 3-star Signal Corps officer. But when General Kind left, we were left with 2-star generals on the post. The commandant, I think maybe he's called, of the MI school, and the head of the Information Systems Command, which is now no longer a major command but is just a command.
Right.
Two stars. And so General Kind moved out of, Lieutenant General Kind, 3-star general, moved out of quarters 1 at Fort Huachuca. And the two stars in quarters 2 and quarters 3 both wanted the honor and of being of having to move all of their effects from one building to the next building 50 feet over to the side to be in front of the flagpole.
Right.
And they both argued persuasively that the post was either an MI post now, or it was a Signal Corps post. Always had been for a long time. And the decision finally went, as they argued, the decision finally went to the Secretary of the Army, and the Secretary of the Army declared that the MI general, 2-star general, should have the inconvenience of moving his effects from either quarters 2 or 3 into quarters 1, and that was the day that it became an MI post. So that was about 1993, I think. 93 or 94.
Mayor Acosta, yeah, one of those 3-star generals that commanded the post was Lieutenant General Alonzo E. Short Jr. Very interesting. You know a lot of Fort Huachuca history, don't you?
I know that. I was there for that one. Because General Sam Leffler was the Signal Corps 2-star, and was very adamant that and very persuasive that he should be the one allowed to be inconvenienced to make the move, and he was not chosen by the Secretary of the Army. And since then, I would call it an MI post since 93 or so.
Not talking position-wise or family-wise or anything, but like scenic-wise. What was your favorite duty station for that?
It's hard to beat Hawaii.
Hawaii?
Yeah, 3 years in Honolulu. I was stationed I lived at Fort Shafter, and I worked in the J6 of at the Marine Corps base. I'm drawing a blank, and Joan worked at Pearl Harbor.
Oh, so you got to see Pearl Harbor, huh?
So I was in the Marine Corps base above Pearl Harbor, where I hate that I can't think of where the heck I was stationed.
That had to be something, though, right? To be there and be that close.
Yes.
And I have never been there. If I go, I always wanted to go see the Arizona Memorial. I heard that it's
That is very moving.
Quite moving.
It is. People are still being interred there.
Yeah.
People who survived, who want to be cremated and have their cremains put aboard the USS Arizona are still allowed to do that.
What do? They have skydivers that go down and
They do have divers who go down and do that. and
wow.
they have a very formal ceremony
Wow.
to do that. I also got
Quite an honor, that sounds like,
Camp
actually.
Smith. Okay, Camp Smith is where I was stationed at
Okay.
Sinkpec J6. Camp Smith's beautiful up on a hill overlooking Pearl Harbor.
What was one of your favorite things about Hawaii? What did you like about it the best?
I played golf 3 days a week.
Golf 3 days a week.
3 times a week, yeah.
You're a golfer, huh?
I was.
Ah.
So as for hobbies, I thought we'd talk about hobbies. So I was thinking,
Yes.
as a newlywed, one of the things I did was Army correspondence courses, and so the Adjutant General Corps had a lot of fun correspondence courses available, and so I completed the AG Basic Officer course, the AG Career course, and I don't know, 6 or 7 other AG courses of specific administrative things that Adjutant General Corps personnel did.
And to be clear, these correspondence courses, this wasn't online at the time.
No.
This was stuff that you had to mail in,
Yes.
old school.
Get mailed
Yeah.
to you and mail it back.
Yeah.
And then I picked up a bachelor's degree in business for fun, which ended up getting me my job after I retired from the Army. When I was stationed at West Point, I got involved in running road races. I ran probably, for the rest of my life, I ran probably 500 road races. I ran 31 marathons and 11 ultra marathons. The longest ultra marathon was a 24-hour run in New York City, and I ran 80.4 miles, ran over 80 miles in one day at New York City. And this race was interesting. It was on a high school dirt track that was certified to be a quarter mile, but 8 inches short of a quarter mile. So for each mile, I would get credit for running 1 mile minus 32 inches. So that was interesting. I did play a lot of golf, especially in Hawaii, and then after that for a while. And now I've resumed fishing. So I love fishing. I grew up on Lake Okoboji and fished a lot as a kid, and then didn't fish again for a while. But now I figure in whatever time I have left, the fishing is going to be
Fishing is it.
my big
What was your lowest handicap ever when you were playing golf? Do you know?
17.
17.
I did have one eagle, which I was playing in Indianapolis with my brother Bob, and so I have a family member who saw my only eagle, so that was good.
Wow.
I chipped in for a 2 on a par 4.
Any hole-in-ones?
No holes in one. I came very close and I got a lot of birdies on close shots after missing holes in one, but no, I never got a hole in one.
Speaking of that, I don't have it in front of me, but I know there's a golf tournament coming up that they're going to be having on post here, something for I think it's in June for the Angel, or not the Angel Tree, but it's something, it's an organization that they buy Christmas trees and decorate them and stuff, because I got an email from wanting to know if the Knights of Columbus wanted to sponsor. So I have the email at home so I could bring it up on my phone. But the only reason I bring that up is because there's going to be a golf tournament here up on Fort Huachuca here pretty soon. And I know that some of the golf tournaments that they have, if you hit a hole-in-one, I think it's got to be on a certain hole, though, because one of these guys I know, Jack Morgan, won a car.
My son-in-law won a car.
Yeah?
And he won a very nice Buick and still has it. And he got a personalized license that says, if I can remember it, what is HOLN1IT. Hole-in-one it.
Yeah.
But,
that's cute. So
I-
what are some of your other hobbies then after you got into, so you said you're into fishing and golf?
So I think that's it.
You're big into sports?
I am big into sports. I go to March Madness most every year. I've probably been to the first 6 games, first and second rounds of March Madness 20 or 25 times. Last month I went to Des Moines, but I've gone to March Madness, men's basketball all over the country.
Who's your favorite team?
My alma maters, Creighton University and the University of Maryland.
Yeah.
And then Notre Dame since
Creighton eliminated Arizona, didn't they?
No, they didn't.
I thought it was Creighton that did. No?
No.
Because they had a pretty deep run in the tournament, right?
I think Princeton eliminated Arizona.
That's right.
And then Creighton eliminated
That's
Princeton.
Right. That's right.
Creighton and Arizona would have played.
Yeah.
In the second round. Should have played in the second round.
Princeton did pretty good, though. I mean, they looked pretty good.
Princeton did very well. Yep.
Because Arizona, I mean, they're no slouch. I mean, Princeton seemed like they had them figured out defensively, and so
that was a terrific game for Princeton.
It was.
Not so good for the
and I
Cavs.
love to have the lower underdogs. You know,
when I go to March Madness, almost always I root for the colored jerseys.
Yeah.
The better seed is always in white, and
right.
the lower seed is always in the colored jersey, and so unless I have a vested interest, and that's all the neutral fans do very often, pick it up for the lower seed.
I think the highest seed in the Final Four was like a number 4 seed, wasn't it?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Everybody's brackets got busted, I think, that year.
Well, they didn't. My son-in-law in Chicago, Nels Hackle, was one of the, I forget, better than the top 1% of the ESPN picks, because he picked his son, my grandson's school, UConn, to win it all, and which they did.
How about that? So let's talk a little bit about your community activities. I know that you have quite a few activities that you do within Cochise County.
I do. I'm active in the Disabled American Veterans, and I've been on many different committees for the DAV and try to attend their monthly meetings. The Vietnam Veterans of America, I was the vice president of VVA for 4 years, and now I am the Vice President Emeritus of the Vietnam Veterans of America. And for VVA, I line up a guest speaker for the meetings every month. And we have, I think, the best guest speaker program in the county. For the Knights of Columbus, I had several offices in the council, and I have held many different offices in the assembly, the 4th degree, including Faithful Navigator, which is the equivalent of the president. For the Genealogy Club, the Sierra Vista Genie Club, I was the co-president of the Genie Club for probably 10 or 12 years, and I stepped down from that last year. But I'm very active in genealogy myself, and I guess I would call myself a full-time genealogist these days. I am a member of MOA. I have so far resisted holding any office. I've been asked quite a few times to hold an office in MOA. I have not done that.
What is that one now?
The Military Officers Association of America.
Okay.
Is a local group that meets monthly for I think 9 or 10 months a year.
Okay.
I'm active in the monthly meetings, which we now hold here at the Warrior Healing Center for the S2 Prostate Cancer Survivors Group. I myself am a prostate cancer survivor who has very significant side effects, detrimental side effects from that, and I can be pretty helpful to other people. That's a great group to inform people, newly diagnosed prostate cancer people, and we meet here monthly, and sometimes we'll have wives of people who themselves are too shy or whatever to come to the meetings, and the wives will come to get information. and I'm proud to say I was a sponsor for a Korean vet for the honor flight to Washington, D.C., and pushed him around in a wheelchair around D.C. I've also done a bunch of things for the Catholic Church
Right.
all around the world, wherever I've been. But I've been an usher and or a lector for most of my adult life. I was a Eucharistic minister for a couple of years at St. Andrews, and I was also a member of the jail ministry for St. Andrews.
So going back to your prostate cancer, was that related to any service in Vietnam or
Yes.
Agent Orange exposure?
I was exposed to Agent Orange, and VA has attributed that my prostate cancer to that, and my service disability of 60% is based on my resulting.
Do you have a higher
problems
rating than
that
that, though?
60%.
60% is just for that one symptom, right?
It
But what
is.
is your total?
60%.
It is 60, okay. Because one of the things that has happened since they passed the PACT Act last August is they've made all of these other presumptive conditions now. So it makes it a lot easier, especially for Vietnam veterans and for our Afghan and Iraq veterans. They have actually redone the form, and it's got toxic exposure questions on there now. And so it's sad that it's taken the VA so long to get to this point, because I can remember I first started going to the VA in 1980, and even then Agent Orange was still being researched. They still hadn't really granted any veterans or were really treating anybody even at that time. So did you have are you getting good treatment now and good care?
I am. I now have a very good urologist surgeon from Banner. I have it absolutely right now.
Good. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I'd like to talk a little bit about my second job. After I retired from the Army, I applied for a number of jobs, and I became a part-time English and philosophy instructor at Cochise College, Douglas campus. And while I was there, I applied for other jobs within the college, and was finally selected to be the director of the prison education program. That is a great program that I was very happy to spend 9 years with. From 1996 to 2005, I was the director of the prison education program. We had a lot of vocational programs there. We taught masonry. We taught custodial services, to be a janitor or something. When inmates are released, data shows that most inmates are still unemployed 12 months after their release. It's not like inmates get out of prison and then they go to work. That's very difficult for an ex-felon to get a job. And so the vocational programs that we had there, I thought were wonderful. Masonry, custodial services, building maintenance, kind of be a fix-it-up guy. Electronics repair were vocational programs. And then we had a terrific business program where we taught basically the entire curriculum of business and computer courses that any university, any four-year university would have, other than the very highest programs within their major. But we taught dozens of business courses. And when I got there, somebody had just completed a program, I think maybe 6 or 7 courses in, let's say, electronics repair. I don't remember exactly which vocational program was, but he had completed this inmate. They're all male inmates at Douglas. This inmate had just completed this program, and I got his certificate from Cochise College campus. And I asked my secretary, what do we do with these certificates? She said, we throw them on the inmate's bunk so that when he comes back at the end of the day, it'll be there for him. I said, we have done that for the last time. That's not going to happen. We're going to have a ceremony. And so I initiated a program where we would have a ceremony. We were the only prison in the state that did this, but we'd have a ceremony. We would buy cookies and punch. We got permission to buy cookies and punch, and we'd bring in a guest speaker. And so I had a great guest speaker program at the Douglas prison. And just to name a few of the guest speakers we had Dick Tomey was the University of Arizona head football coach.
Right.
Josh Pastner was the University of Arizona assistant basketball coach. I actually tried to get Lute Olson, but I got Josh Pastner, who was a very good speaker.
Right.
We had Catholic Bishop Gerald Kakanis, the Bishop of Tucson Diocese. I had General Alan Lurie, was a 7-year prisoner of war in Vietnam, and he talked about both his experiences as a POW compared to what the inmates were having, where General Lurie said he was tortured every day that he was there for 7 years. They would stick needles under his fingernails, and they would do all kinds of other very inhumane things. And then the other thing that General Lurie talked about was, he said, if I had had your opportunity, I could have read law and become a lawyer. I could have read medicine and become a doctor. He said, you have the opportunity to take courses, to do reading. He said, these were all wasted years for me. Don't let them be wasted years for you. So
wow, that's a powerful.
So he was a wonderful speaker. I had Congressman Jim Colby came and spoke. Cochise College President Karen Nicodemus. We had some really terrific speakers from throughout Arizona. I tried to get Governor Jane D. Hall. I missed her. I tried to get Eddie Basha. I missed him, but I got a whole bunch of other really good speakers. So I'm very proud of that. I was chosen the Cochise College Teacher of the Year. One of the other things that I did was, unlike my contemporaries at the other prisons, I became a GED examiner so that I could test inmates and help them get their GED equivalencies, high school equivalencies. That's a very important credential for an ex-felon. If he's a high school dropout and an ex-felon, he has 2 terrible strikes against him. If he can eliminate one of those strikes, that's really good. So that's the highlight I'd like to bring up. I'd also like to talk very briefly about the greatest honor that I ever got. So our families are not honors that we earned. I didn't earn my wife. I didn't earn my children or my families. And I probably didn't even earn my friends.
They were blessings.
They were blessings. But the things that I earned, so I was fortunate to earn promotions in the Army, schools in the Army, and things like that. But the greatest honor I ever earned, which is very humiliating to think that I did earn it, was to be chosen for the Arizona Veterans Hall of Fame a few years ago. So a selection group from the United Arizona Veterans in Maricopa County meets each year to consider nominations for the Arizona Veterans Hall of Fame, and then if the list that they select goes to the governor of the state, and so presumably Katie Hobbs will approve it, and she'll go along with this. But both Republican and Democrat governors for the last 23 years have approved about 20 to 25 veterans per year for the Arizona Hall of Fame. And when Governor Doug Ducey was the guest speaker at my induction.
What year was this?
2019.
Okay.
And Governor Ducey said there are 700,000 veterans living in Arizona. So you hear different numbers for how many veterans there are, but this is the governor's number, so I'll use that. 700,000 veterans
Wow.
in the state, and every year, 20 of them or so will be selected for the Arizona Hall of Fame. So this is such an infinitesimal, tiny number of veterans, and so many veterans doing so many good things. This is the greatest honor. This is a greater honor than being selected for promotion after promotion, or school after school, or great assignment after great assignment.
Because you've been recognized.
Because it's such a tiny percentage of people
Right.
who get this great honor. And so I have talked up to many people about passing it on, and how we need to keep nominating Southern Arizona, Cochise County, outstanding veterans for the Arizona Hall of Fame. It is just a fantastic honor, and I'm grateful that I got it. I was able to nominate Bill Beecher last year. I was able to write letters of recommendation for two outstanding people this year, who I'm hopeful will get selected. But that's a wonderful honor.
One thing that I admire about you, and always have from a distance, because I never really took the time to get to know you personally, is you're the type of person that doesn't go around and brag about, oh, look at me, I'm doing this, or look at that. You do things quietly in the background, and you get things done, and that's what's so admirable. It's because it's the actions speak louder than words, is what my mom used to always tell me as a kid. You could say it and say it and say it, but if you don't do it, it's nothing. And you're a doer.
I certainly am. I have made a commitment to nominate somebody every single year for the hospital wall. The Canyon Vista Hospital Wall is a great honor for local veterans. 12 veterans from Cochise County get selected every year, and I have nominated. I think I have 5 years in a row. One of my nominations has been selected, and
Wow.
I plan to nominate and try to help that person be successful every year as long as I'm still here. I think that's another thing we can do for other local veterans.
And I think that you set a very good example by doing, right? And I think that you're the type of person that we need as a role model because of your actions, right? I mean, you just quietly go about getting things done. And again, that's just one of the many things that I do admire about you, and it doesn't go unnoticed, Bill. Let's put it that way, okay?
Thanks.
Let's put it that way.
I asked you to say that, and here's.
Oh yeah, here's my money. No, but I do mean that.
Thank you.
In closing, do you have any last words or any kind of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience?
I guess that was my wisdom, that there are very wonderful awards out there, and it's a pity when we see people doing good things and we don't take the time to help them get recognized, others get recognized for those things. And I plan to spend my last few years, I hope, helping other people get recognized.
And when somebody
Thanks.
comes to you and asks you,
I would help anybody.
right? But it's hard to say no. But in the also, like when we were at the fish fry and you asked me about, because I'm already an officer with the Knights of Columbus, and then you asked me kind of about doing the assembly. It's hard to say no because, like I said, you set that example, right? And you don't want to disappoint somebody that you look up to. So therefore, you just quietly say, sure, yes.
Well, good.
And if you're sitting at home and you're not doing anything, I encourage you to get out and volunteer, get active, do something. I used to sit at home and play video games all day long, and I just got so bored. And then when the pandemic hit and I was told I couldn't go anywhere, well, I was already self-isolated just for staying home. that's when I decided I wanted to get out and start helping and become more involved. And I think that others should be doing that same thing. I mean, there's so many organizations here that are looking for help, and one of the places to start is right here at the Warrior Healing Center. Just come in and walk in and say, hi, I'm a veteran and I'm here to see how I can help, or if there's any needs or anything, because one of the biggest things that we combat here is veteran suicide. We have too many veterans committing suicide, and a great way to prevent this is getting people active and getting people involved in the community, like Bill. So again, thank you so much for coming in and taking the time to sit down with me this morning. I appreciate it so very much. I got a couple announcements I need to read here real quick, if you can hang out with me. So today, whoops, gotta look on the right side. Oh, no, here we are. So starting this Monday, April 17th, starting at 1630, going to 1800, is the Team RWB Tackles the Apache Flats. They'll be meeting at the Apache Field parking lot up on Fort Huachuca for that event. This Monday, starting at 1800, going to 2000, is the Finance and Legal Seminar. It's Finance 101 and Estate Planning, and that will be held here at the Warrior Healing Center at the main conference room. I asked my wife about it. I said, we need to go to that meeting. So we're going to be there this Monday night, so I have it on my calendar to be there. Tuesday, April 18th, starting at 1730, and going through 1900 hours, we have the belly dancing that will be taking place here at the Warrior Healing Center. On Wednesday, starting at 0830, the Velovets Sierra Vista Group Ride will start at the Pueblo del Sol Country Golf Club parking lot. They do their ride every Wednesday and Saturday. This coming Thursday, which would be April 20th, is our Bagels and Brew here at the Warrior Healing Center, starting at 0900, going to 1100 hours. I highly encourage you to come and attend next Thursday. There's so much good things that go on at this Bagel and Brew. You get free food, free coffee. You get to sit around and meet other veterans, some camaraderie. If you need any help or resources, you can fill out an intake form while you're here. There's just so many things that can be done. So I highly encourage you, if you have not attended one, please come and join us this next Thursday, April 20th, for our Bagels and Brew, starting at 0900 hours. And then on Friday, April 21st, 1 week from today, starting at 0900, going to 1600 hours, is going to be the Veterans Benefits Seminar Open House. And that's with VetLinks will be here. And that will be taking place at the Warrior Healing Center main conference center. Saturday, April 22nd, starting at 1300, going to 1600 hours, is Team RWB Social Ride. It's going to be a birthday scavenger hunt, and it'll be taking place at the mall at Sierra Vista. Again, that's April 22nd, starting at 1300 hours. And last, come and join us if you're a caregiver and you're interested and need some help or support. There's a group here for you. It's called the Trewalta Hope and Wellness Support for Caregivers. It'll be Tuesday, April 24th, or Monday, April 24th, starting at 1400 hours, going to 1530, and it'll be taking place here at the Warrior Healing Center main conference room. So that's all my events, my interview. Bill, again, thank you so much for sharing your fascinating service with us, not only in the military, but also here in our community. Thank you for that.
You're awesome, Mike.
I just here I like to hear your stories, and that's what makes this so much fun. And the fact that after we're done and I save this, it goes up on Facebook and it's up there forever. YouTube, it's up there forever. Twitch, a couple other streaming sites. So I love hearing other veteran stories and knowing the fact that they'll be there to watch for an eternity, hopefully. So thank you for joining us today. And next Friday, my special guest veteran will be Chris Huey. See you next Friday at 0900. Everybody have a good day and a good weekend. Bye-bye.